afternoon, Manchester, and welcome to this broadcast from Mancunian Matters. I'm your host, Finn Toll, and today we'll be taking you through some of the most exciting stories that's been happening around Manchester. Coming up, we'll be seeing Jess heading down to the Atherton Guide Dog Centre to celebrate their clever pups on National Guide Dog Day on the 26th of April. I'll be exploring Manchester's street art scene and trying my hand at Street Art Workshop in Burton Road to really understand why the Northern Quarter has become so synonymous with street art and also how people can get into it. Then, Andreas has been in Middleton for the Tour de Manc to highlight how this gruelling race, participated by 1,500 cyclists, is so beneficial to local charities within the region. But before all that, Jess is going down to the Atherton Guide Dog Centre on National Guide Dog Day. Here she'll be checking out the work that the guide dogs have to go through before they're ready to go to the clients. She spoke to one of the fosterers and the supervisor trainer.
So guide dogs generally come in from their puppy raisers around about the age of 12 to 14 months. That's when they start their official training. So they've had a great upbringing with the puppy raiser who's given them lots of experience in the world as a pet home. So they've done lots of exposure in that period, and we can see if the dog's going to have any health issues or training issues, and then we assess them ready for training. So then they'll come in, they'll be allocated a trainer, and the dog will enter either into kennels or fosterers. We do prefer fosterers, just purely because it's a bit more of a natural environment. Our kennels are lovely, they are beautiful and very set up for dogs' needs, but you can't replicate a home in a kennel environment. So that's where we generally want the dogs to go. So they'll be allocated a fosterer before they even step foot through the door. And we try and match them up as best we can from notes at puppy walk. So the trainer will start working with that dog pretty much from the day after it enters for training. And they have a list of tasks to teach that dog, generally within 20 weeks. So that's the time frame we aim for to teach that dog. Obviously, with the dog's health and its behaviour, that training amount of time might extend. We do get dogs that go through it a lot quicker, but generally it can take up to 6 months, we say, for the dog to be trained and go out with a client. Some dogs can be held back quite a bit for their health, especially for skin conditions or if they have a joint issue. So we try and, their health is paramount, that becomes before everything else. So if the dog's not fit to be a guide dog, we will never force that. So throughout training, the trainers will generally assess the dog's behaviour, teach it lots of tasks that are very geared to its life as a guide dog. And we go through these behaviours that we teach the dog. The dogs have to be very accepting of equipment. So they're wearing a harness, and that harness is really important. So if they hate the harness, they don't like it, we'll do our best to get them over it. But some dogs just don't like it. And, and we will never force a dog to be a guide dog. It's not going to work. So generally, the trainers will work through a training programme for 20 weeks, and then the dog will go to be matched with a client and go what we call client training. And that's generally 5 weeks of quite intensive training with the dog and the client. And then there'll be a period of aftercare, so they'll be left to go and practice their routes, and then a guide dog mobility specialist will go out and keep checking on them until they're qualified. It's we always say within the first year, it's still a training. They're still training together, even if we qualify that partnership. They've still got a lot of learning together, and they need to bond and they need to gel. And that first year is quite a learning period, and they need to come together. We always need more fosterers because the amount of dogs we have coming through increases every year.
So some of the rewarding aspects of being a fosterer include obviously having a dog that's part of your home, relaxed, but also to have a dog without all of the what I would call the normal responsibilities. I still go out to work every day. I drop the dog off at Atherton, so I know the dog obviously is there till the evening, but I can still obviously enjoy the dog at home and also at the weekend. So we'll perhaps go on a run or go on a walk with the dog. I've had 6 dogs so far, so they've all been very different, which is really nice as well. I've had the full training as well that allows me to do that, because I've not had a pet dog for probably nearly 40 years. So that's been good for me, that I've been trained the right way on how to handle the dog, even from getting it in and out of the car to how to feed it at home. And it's also expanded to the rest of the family. So my husband's also a volunteer and my son's a volunteer as well. So we've got cover if we're out for the day or anything. So yeah, it is sad when they leave you, but you know when you get some warning that that's happening, so you can obviously go out for a last walk or whatever. But I've done it a couple of times now, so that's got a little bit easier, and I know that the dog is going on to further training to be a guide dog long term, so that's really important to me. For me, give it a go, because I think that's part of it. It is a learning opportunity for you anyway. I think you go through a particular process and you have some training, practical training with a different dog, but you get to know what you need to do as a fosterer.
Here I'm now joined by Jess. The footage looked brilliant that you shot. So what was it like to work with the dogs?
Oh, they were amazing. They were so clever. They were so well behaved. I was a bit worried taking like my equipment, thinking like, oh, what if it scares them? What if it worries them? But honestly, the regard that the dogs have is so amazing. They've got such a high tendency. It's great.
So you weren't sure how they're going to react around your camera equipment. How should other people behave around the dogs?
So the main point is to not distract the dog. If you see a guide dog with a harness on, you just leave the dog alone. You talk to the client, you talk to their owner. You do not distract the dog from their work. If they have the harness off, ask the owner for permission before you talk to them or try and touch them or anything.
So they're not really comfortable with the harnesses on?
So I spoke to Jo, and she was saying that a lot of the dogs sometimes they're not very well behaved when they have the harness on, and in that case she says that they get rehomed and then they don't go through to be a guide dog because they're clearly not meant for it, and they say they never force a dog to be a guide dog.
That's really positive to hear, and it sounds like the trainer's got a really good relationship with the dogs as well. What is that like?
Oh, it was amazing, honestly. It was as if I was watching myself with my own pet dog, except they're teaching them things, and these dogs are a lot more behaved than my dog. But yeah, it was like they were best friends. They were amazing.
That's great. So you couldn't see your dog in that kind of profession then?
Oh, definitely not, no.
And tell us more about the dogs which are in the video then.
So in the video we had, I'd probably say, not that I should have favourites, but my favourite was probably Fergal. He had a lot of energy. And then there was Ava and Birdie, and they were all just amazing. They were so clever, so well behaved.
Oh, brilliant. And how can people sign up to join the guide dogs?
So if you visit www.guidedogsuk, on their website there is a How Can You Help tab. If you go onto that and click the Volunteer for Guide Dogs, there will be a tab where you can select and read more about information about being a foster and how you can do that.
And how do the clients, or how do the people at Guide Dogs UK match dogs up with the clients?
So they tailor the dog. She was saying a few years ago, you just get given any dog, but they realised that that's not how it works, and that the dog needs to be suited to the client, and so they've adapted their process. So they've had dogs where they've needed a specific colour for whatever reason, so they've been given a black dog or a blonde dog or whatever colours they have. So they really do make a lot of effort to make sure that the dog's comfortable and the client's comfortable and everyone's suited.
I mean, it's all really interesting. It sounds really exciting as well, especially for National Guide Dog Day. It's brilliant to raise awareness. For the final question as well, would you ever consider fostering one of the guide dogs?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I'd definitely look into it in the future when I'm looking at getting a dog or looking at my own house.
I mean, you know they'll be well behaved.
Yeah, definitely.
That's brilliant. Perfect.
Now, Finn explored the abundance of street art in Manchester's northern quarter and spoke to the owner of Set Art Cafe on Burton Road in West Didsbury, which champions and welcomes people into the world of street art, with classes and workshops.
The northern quarter in Manchester has become synonymous in the country for their street art. What was once an industrial region is now a bohemian and vibrant hub within Manchester. Now there's some pretty magnificent artwork within Manchester, from full-scale murals to the arts on the back streets of Manchester. Now the best way to find these street arts is to have a look around Northern Quarter and go around the streets, because there's plenty to get involved in.
Manchester was rated the third best city for street art in the UK by South West Railway, and it's clear to see why, with street artists such as Axie P19, Quebec and Kelso all producing some brilliant and instantly recognisable art which has been lighting up the Northern Quarter. Street art is often painted over by other artists, as their artists themselves don't own the wall or the art, so views are seen a one-of-a-kind work that is likely not to last, where the timescale creates an immediacy and electricity around the work. The catalyst for this dominance of street art in Manchester was the Cities of Hope Festival in May 2016. This was a street festival aimed at raising awareness of a variety of world issues, which saw 9 of the most well-renowned street artists coming to Manchester to spray paint their craft onto the red brick.
I'm here at Set Art Gallery at 174 Burton Road in West Isbury to try my hand at their street art workshop. Here I hope they'll be able to find where street art is created and also how it begins. Here, the owner, Frankie Clark, teaches and offers an abundance of street art workshopping classes from young to old to introduce them into the world of street art.
The Set Art Cafe operates your traditional cafe where you can pop in for a latte or a toasty. But once you step through their doors, it's an absolute treasure trove for street art lovers and a creative hub for artists in a relaxed and friendly environment. They operate their Set Youth Club, which is a national accredited arts awards centre which provides a framework for 11 to 15 year olds to engage with local art opportunities and develop their skills through creating their own portfolios. The work has cemented Set's place as both the creative hub of Burton Road and the place to party on the strip. I spoke to the owner Frankie about the work he does at the gallery.
It offers kind of the community space to sell local art, because obviously kind of the fine art community, it's pretty tough to get in unless you know somebody. I come from more of a street art background, and there's some really talented artists locally who we kind of want to showcase. And then we developed into selling coffees and stuff, and now we're mostly a teaching establishment. So we run classes like this evening where we do graffiti. We have other artists in, like our current resident artist Yasmin Shima runs a night called Brushing Beats where she does like acrylic on canvas. We've just put some legal walls up, which was going to be like the graffiti night that we do tonight. I started off doing fluid art because I'm not really from an art background, so that's really good for teaching kind of kids. And we've developed that, and now we do what's called the Arts Award program. You know, because I just love like the young'uns when they really pick it up, and that's kind of expanded into the adults as well, because there's a lot of adults that come now and nights you they haven't done any arts in school, and they leave, and they, you know, it's a real good sense of satisfaction for them. And yeah, our local community is really important to us. We want to help artists of all levels, but we also get some really, really talented guys come in. We're always fascinated in graffiti. I come from a very small town in Durham where if you paint on somebody's walls, they're going to find you. So I was into DJing from a very early age, and I'm kind of lucky to be able to come back to it as an adult and kind of start honing my skills without those kind of preconceptions that you get as a small child. When I first set up, I needed to use the space, and even though I was kind of really, I was always fascinated with graffiti, I didn't have kind of the technical knowledge to do it. I was always good at teaching, but then I've had to pick up everything as I've gone along, so I've been really lucky to have the support. But I really have to give a very special mention to Rachel Jackson, who's a very good friend of mine who recently very tragically passed away. There's some of our artwork. I've had some commissions of her and she did a lot of stuff with like people in there, like happier moments. And she was a very dear friend of mine who we're really gonna miss. Yeah, we're really blessed to have some really like experienced older guys who've been there and done loads of different things. They've all been really helpful to like kind of getting this place set up. And also we've got kind of newer talent coming through, and we just want to make it kind of a really, you know, welcoming place where there's no real kind of judgment here. There's no good art, there's no bad art. We're all just trying to either be creative for therapy reasons or to kind of hone ourselves, and just for the young'uns especially to discover if they want to move into the arts or not, or even just come and have a coffee and chill out in a safe, beautiful place.
Finn Toll reporting from Mancunian Matters.
So Finn, that looked absolutely amazing. What I want to know is, did you try any street art while you were at the cafe?
I did indeed. I am absolutely useless at art normally, It's not something that's not come naturally to me, nor when I was in school. However, when I got down there to the art gallery, Frankie was brilliant on hand. He was a fantastic teacher, was really good at doing demonstrations, was very good at watching over you as well. And the best thing was about the class is that there was people there of all ages and all abilities. So there was this 7-year-old girl who was there, and she showed us all up. She was absolutely brilliant, and her graffiti was amazing. And it's surprisingly really difficult. It was surprisingly really difficult. I didn't understand the thought and the care and the thinking that goes into producing your graffiti. But I was really happy with the outcome of mine anyway. As a first time, as a rookie, it was great. It was really good, and I had a good time when I was on hand.
Oh, brilliant. With you mentioning that you quite admired a lot of work, do you have a favourite piece of street art?
I mean, the Northern Quarter is really good that you could just go around and you can keep seeing your favourites. One of my favourites before was there was an Ian Curtis memorial by Axie, but that got painted over and it hasn't been repainted yet. There's a really, really good street art which was from the Cities of Hope Festival, and it depicts a child with an AK-47 and this overarching shadow looming over. That was done in the Cities of Hope Festival called War Child. That's a fantastic bit of art, huge full wall canvas. So that was a really, really beautiful piece of art for me.
That sounds really beautiful. How did you find it walking around the Northern Quarter to find the art?
I mean, I'm no stranger to the streets of Northern Quarter, that's for sure. You know, I do like to have a route around, whether that's going in the thrift shops or all the independent businesses, but the street art really makes the Northern Quarter. It gives it so much character, makes it so vibrant, so bohemian. It just brings it to life almost. And it's brilliant that you can always walk around different streets in Manchester, in the Northern Quarter, different back streets, and you'll see new art that you've never seen before. And the best thing is that they keep getting painted over. So if you were to visit Manchester every 3 months, you'd come back and there'd be a completely different memorial, different mural on the wall. So it's really, really good. It gives it a lot of character. So I really enjoy that part of Northern Quarter especially.
So the cafe looked amazing. I might have to pop down there for a coffee. But what was the atmosphere like?
The atmosphere was incredibly friendly. It really was. There was bring your own booze, which might have helped, but everyone in there was dead friendly. They were all dead familiar with each other. And after the two and a half hour class, you were friends with these people. It was brilliant. And that atmosphere really panned down from Frankie as an owner. As soon as you came in, he was really welcoming, really approachable. They had all the other professionals who were in the cafe as well, helping out with the art. So it was a really, really nice atmosphere. Dead friendly, dead relaxed, and there's no pressure at all because Frankie's seen it all. He knows that some people aren't the best at art, but he's really good at teaching them and educating them in how to do it and how to become a street artist.
Sounds amazing. My next question is, because you're really selling this cafe to me, how many people, if you know, try street art casually?
Well, street art isn't something to be done casually. It's still illegal. It's still illegal pretty much, and that's what the draw is of Set Art Cafe. Is it's in Frankie's property. He puts up all the walls and puts up all the boards, so it's a legal space for people to try graffiti. However, if you're talking in Manchester, there's some brilliant street artists who you'll be really lucky to see. Kelso, Quebec, Axie P19, they're all brilliant, and they're ones that are always cropping up in and around Manchester, so those are the ones you need to look out for.
Absolutely.
Now onto a bit of sport, and last week Manchester welcomed over 1,000 cyclists for the Tour de Manche. This offers an accessible challenge for cyclists of all abilities to do a numerous amount of routes while supporting local charities and cyclist inclusivity. Andreas went down to see how they got on.
On the last Sunday of April, thousands of cyclists roamed around Greater Manchester as they competed on the charity bike ride Tour de Manche. But what is exactly Tour de Manche?
Tour de Manche is a tough bike ride all the way around Manchester. We have 4 routes. We have a 50 kilometre route, 100 kilometre, which is a little bit longer than 100 kilometres, 100-mile route and a 200-kilometre route, which is the Mad Manc. It's 10,000 feet of climbs and 200 kilometres. I was an ambassador for an organisation called Forever Manchester, which is the Community Foundation for Greater Manchester. And I was an ambassador there, and I'd just been up to see the Grand Depart for the Tour of Yorkshire that weekend. And the day after, we all had this meeting at the offices, and we were all talking about what we were doing that weekend. And I said, you know what, I've just been to see the Tour of Yorkshire. It was brilliant. I don't know why we don't do a Tour de Manc. And the guys around the table said, there you go, Dan, go and do it. Every year gives me great pleasure to give money away to our headline charities, and year on year it goes up. You know, from let me think, £1,000. We raised £2,000 in the first year, so £1,000 to the two headline charities. Hopefully, you know, we'll give away a lot more this year because we have 1,500 riders this year. Directly, I think we raised about £16,000, £17,000, but it's an exceptional year last year because we were at the back end of COVID, we had expenses from previous. This year, hopefully, we're going to give away about £8,000 per headline charity. Headline charities this year, we have Royal Manchester Children's Hospital, St Anne's Hospice over in Cheadle, Seashell Trust over in Cheadle as well, and a new headline charity, semi-headline, first year on board, is Prevent Breast Cancer.
As thousands of pounds are raised by Tour de Manc every year, I was curious how this helps the charities. So I went down to the Royal Manchester Children's Hospital charity to find out.
Manchester Foundation Trust Charity raises funds for our 10 Manchester hospitals for the NHS. Royal Manchester Children's Hospital treats over 280,000 patients and young people every year. Events like Tour de Manc happening this Sunday is so important to help our cause and fundraise even further and raise as much money as we can for hospitals. All the money that we raise, it goes towards the continued excellence in treatment, care, specialist provision for our patients and their families. Our main goal as a charity is to make patients' experience in hospitals a better and more positive one for them when it's a difficult situation that they're in. The money we raise funds so many different things, so many different projects for hospitals, and we could not do that without events like Tour de Manc. People can donate directly to us through our website, MFT Charity, Manchester Foundation Trust Charity website. You can sign up to a newsletter and find out about even more events that we're doing. You can get involved by fundraising yourself, volunteering, supporting us in whatever way you can. We have a brilliant team here and they'll do everything they can to support all forms of fundraising.
So I'm joined by Andreas on the back of the Tour de Manc. So what is the purpose of this?
Well, I spoke to Danny, the founder. He's a lovely guy, and he told me that, he was inspired by a similar bike ride he saw in Yorkshire. And he said, why not do this in Manchester? So in 2014, he grabbed a few of his friends and they decided to set up a charity bike ride. They wanted to do a charity one because Danny had some experience with raising money through those kind of events. But he also wanted to do an event that would be tough physically for cyclists to enjoy. And as he said as well, when I interviewed him, he said that I wanted a real tough event so that cyclists kind of forget that they're doing this for charity, so that they can push themselves, in a physical way as well. But he loves raising money, so that's why he keeps it a charity bike ride.
I mean, it's a great idea, and the different difficulties as well. We had a 200 kilometres, a 200 miles, was it a 50 kilometres around the northern quarter?
Yeah, there were tons of routes, depending on anyone's ability. There was the Mad Manc, it was like 200 kilometres all around Greater Manchester. It started from Milton, went down to Chilo, then back up again. It was mad, and there were a lot of people doing it. You saw it as well, but there were tons of people as well. Most of the people tried the Northern Quarter route, which was only 50 kilometers. It was the shortest one, but it is an event that's accessible for everyone, no matter the ability. I saw people, into their 70s, and even I saw 10 years old with their parents as well. So it is truly an event for everyone.
Oh, you were right down at the front, at the very starting line at 6 a.m. in the morning. What was the atmosphere like when you were down there?
Well, I honestly didn't expect that much, but it was great. 1,000 people on a random parking lot in Middleton at 6 a.m. in the morning. It was a very, very nice, kind of a family atmosphere. I went there, and Danny was there registering all the cyclists, and I went on to the starting line, and Tony, the co-founder of the event, was there organizing, giving directions to the cyclists that started pretty early. And honestly, it was a great environment to be there because, people loved being there, even though it was pretty early in the morning on a Sunday morning.
I mean, you just touched about Tony, the organiser. We saw him in the video clip, who was at the front starting line, who was staggering the riders as well as giving them orders and giving them instructions. Why did they stagger these cyclists, and also what was the orders that he was giving?
Yeah, well, that man deserves an award, because he said the same script about, I don't know, he said the exact same script from 6 a.m. up until 11 a.m. when the last riders started. So essentially, because most of the roads that the race happened were not closed. It was public access road. Cars were going through all morning, even outside the starting line. So Tony had to give them directions to watch out, don't run any lights, don't break the law. So he was giving them orders about that, and why it was staggered, it was because there were cars running like 100 meters down the line. They had to let them off 30, 40 at a time, so it would not cause a chaos on the street. And there were volunteers on the street managing traffic a little at times, but still, the riders had to be careful, and for the safety of them, Tony had to release them a little bit.
I mean, it seemed incredibly safe, especially when there's no roads that were closed down as well. I know when I went to go and catch up with it in Cheadle, all the cyclists were really law-abiding as well. They were stopping at the traffic lights, and they were letting all the cars pass through. For people who are watching this and want to get involved with the Tour de Manc next year, what would you recommend, or what would your advice be?
Well, absolutely sign up, because it's all for a good cause. And these guys are doing an incredible job, and they're raising tons of money as well. Danny told me he raised about more than 15,000 last year, and he was expecting to raise at least 8-9 this year as well. So, and absolutely, I think it's a different kind of a Sunday, as a family activity, as even a couples activity, even if you're by yourself. At the end of the day, this event is for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a pro cyclist or an amateur, or you just barely know how to ride a bike. You can choose from either of these routes, and you can enjoy your Sunday morning with tons of other people as well that love doing the same thing as well.
I mean, it makes it feel so much better as well that it's going to such a great cause as well. I mean, some of the charities in your piece, St Anne's Hospice, Seashell Trust, breast cancer as well. These are really, really key charities and need to be focused on. What did the organiser say about them?
Well, again, they partnered with these charities for many years. Like, I also talked to the Royal Manchester Children's Hospital charity, and they said to me these events are very, very important for them, because it raises tons of money that go into equipment, raising awareness, and just generally helping people's lives. And Danny is just happy to give out money. Like, that's his goal at the end of the day. You know, it's a lot of hustle. You know, he participated. You know, he did the Tour de Manche once, and then since then he's just too busy organizing it. But he says it doesn't matter. No, doesn't matter how tired he is, or all the other guys that are participating in the organization part. It's their goal is to raise as much money as possible, and give them out to the people in need.
I mean, it seems like such a fantastic event. Are you going to get involved next year?
That wake up on Sunday was a bit too early for me, to be honest, especially after a Saturday night. So, you know, if they pass outside my house, I might, you know, cheer them on. But yeah, I can't promise. Maybe, you never know.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming to speak to us today.
Thank you
very much. Appreciated. That's all from us in the studio. Thank you very much for Jess and Andreas for coming down and speaking about their packages. I hope you all stay safe and take care. Thank you very much.